I'm not a huge Gwyneth Paltrow fan.
She's a great actress because she can convince you on the screen that she's not a raving lunatic. I am not buying a candle. That's no way to sell me a candle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. No thanks. She's a bit touched, but
yeah, her head doesn't cast a shadow. Yeah.
Yeah, but the only movies that I really like, I do enjoy her in the Marvel movies. I think she makes a great Pepper Potts. I think she's excellent alongside Robert Downey Jr. So she does a good job in that. And then of course she was great in Seven. I loved how it ended. You know. Yeah. So what's in the box?
With her getting her head cut off.
Welcome to the Dastardly Dingoes podcast, a show that celebrates all things nerdy. You'll get an insider's look into the world of comic books, graphic novels, TV and film, gaming and pop culture, as well as the technologies that drive all of it. Now, are you ready to get nerdy?
Welcome to the Dastardly Dingo podcast, the show about all things nerdy. We discuss nerd news, movies, TV shows, games, comics, and interview the people who create it all. I'm Brian.
I'm Jeremy.
And this is the show where you don't know if we're wearing pants. Let's get nerdy, everybody. All right. This episode, I am privileged and excited to introduce our guest. He is an independent publisher, freelance hybrid author, business mentor, occasional actor, award-winning playwright, and former mortician's assistant. He has been a professional freelance writer for over 20 years, entering into the craft full-time in 2012. Since then, his books have sold on 3 continents, and he's a frequent guest at many comic conventions, book shows in a 6-state area of the Midwest. And in addition to his writings, he hosts 2 Facebook live shows, Never Mind the Furthermore, and Clever Title Pending. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we give you the oh-so-fabulous Brian K. Morris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm not used to saying good evening. I only do that one night a week, so this is a stretch for me. But thank you for having me on, guys. I'm sincerely, I am knocked out by this.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for coming on the show. We're excited to have you here. And what we do just at the very beginning of our episodes, we like to do a little segment called Get to Know Your Dingoes, because you are, from now on, sir, a honorary dingo at the Dastardly Dingoes podcast. You are now able to be on whenever you wish. Whenever you wish to put up with our shenanigans. And we would love to have you on the show anytime you want. But to induct you in the Dastardly Dingoes Hall of Fame, the first question that we must ask you is, what kind of nerd are you?
What kind of nerd? I have a variety of interests ranging from space travel to Superman to comics to movies and everything. But I was nerdy from the minute I slipped out of mom's birth canal, and I was geek before it was chic. So I've always been really, really nerdy. In fact, here's a little known fact. My middle initial is for Kevin, but my parents initially wanted to call me Brian Keith after the actor, Family Affair, McCormick and all. But they were afraid that I might get beat up in school if I had this rather obvious name. So, of course, an overweight kid that reads comics well into adulthood, of course, faced no abuse whatsoever in the public school system. So thanks, Mom and Dad.
We ask everybody this just because we're both big film buffs, but what is your top 5 movies?
That is a great question, and I'm glad you asked me now because the list was different an hour ago and will probably be different an hour from now.
Right.
But I wouldn't pick the Princess Bride, although it is pretty much the perfect movie.
Mm.
In all ways, if you want comedy, you want drama, you want great sword fighting, you want wrestlers.
If you want to get used to disappointment,
that's life. That's what life is for. But everybody picks Princess Bride, so I decided I'll do something different. One is The Shadow. from 1994, I am a huge pulp fanatic, and I grew up reading the Maxwell Grant Shadow books. In fact, I read stories about how some of the writers of pulps would literally beat typewriters to death with their fingertips because they were trying to put out so much wordage because you got paid by the word.
Yeah.
And so, but I love that movie. The casting is totally on point. It is a lovely homage to the original pulps. And casting Peter Boyle as Mo Shrevnitz is perfect.
It was excellent. Yes, I loved him in that role because I love the radio show a lot. I never really got into the pulps, but I dug. My parents introduced me to the radio show when I was a little kid. They got me a bunch of cassette tapes. What's that? You know, and I had a collection of The Shadow and Abbott and Costello and a bunch of old radio shows, and so I loved the movie so much. Little interesting fact about Alec Baldwin playing The Shadow: he was in line to play Tim Burton's Batman in 1989. It was him, Bill Murray, and Michael Keaton.
God.
And Michael Keaton, of course, won out, but
Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What sort of bizarro world would that be?
Would have been probably more like an Adam West.
Yeah, and it's just the incongruity. You know, it's like you Bill Murray and Michael Keaton, and then you have Alec Baldwin, and it's like one of these things is not like the other one, and you're wondering how did Alec not get it?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. You hear his voice when he plays the Shadow.
Yeah,
and I like it's spine tingling, and it's awesome. He did such a good job. But anyway, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm worth interrupting. The next one on my list is Superman the movie, because I grew up on George Reeves because I'm older than the Earth itself, but. But I grew up on George Reeves, and to me, he was Superman because he was Superman at the time. You know, I'm starting to remember things as a kid, and I'm reading comic books, which is why I'm the only kid. I was the only kid in my first grade class that knew the word invulnerable and could spell it.
Nice.
So, I learned to read on comics. Yeah, seriously. They helped me read. They helped me with my vocabulary. The Undergrounds probably had a bad effect on my vocabulary, but that's another story. But, Christopher Reeve was just so again, perfect casting.
Yeah.
And you cannot, for years, it was hard to imagine anyone else being Superman but Christopher Reeve. And he just put everything into it. And you would believe a man could fly because it looked like he believed it too. Yeah. I don't think he was well served by subsequent scripts, but Reeve himself was just so freaking awesome. So that's one of my top 5.
Yeah. Really quick. So how did you feel about Henry Cavill playing Superman?
I thought he was fantastic. I really did. He gave it the gravitas that Reeve did, and he managed to create a slight dichotomy between the personalities of. He brought the gravitas of Reeve. He looked good, and he made like a slight variation in how he played Clark Kent and how he played Superman to the point where you could understand why a pair of glasses and slicking back the hair might change. Might prevent him from being recognized as Superman. Right. I thought he was fantastic in the role. Actually, Amy Adams, I was just really impressed with the whole crew on there.
Yeah.
My only problem with Man of Steel was the prolonged adoration of the destruction scenes in Metropolis, simply because I was getting 9/11 flashbacks.
Right. Yeah, and actually, I think that was kind of the direction Zack Snyder was going after. He wanted it to be borderline traumatizing because it was like this is the first time Superman has ever done anything, and he's literally fighting beings that don't care how many people they kill.
Right. Exactly.
So,
yeah. Yeah, and I know they'd been talking for years about doing a Superman film where he actually punched somebody, and this was a lesson in be careful in what you ask for.
Yes, for sure. And I think it's good that in BVS they did, address that very issue as well. That actually was a huge plot point in that sequel. So I don't know. I'm a huge Zack Snyder fan. I know you actually talked about that this morning on your show. And I'm a huge Zack Snyder fan, and I really enjoy his vision of the DC characters a lot. But there is a soft spot in my heart for the Christopher Reeve, especially the first one, the first Superman movie. It's so good. It broke. I mean, it was groundbreaking.
It really was. I remember exactly where I was when I went to see it, and oddly enough, it was in a theater in Danville, Illinois. Gene Hackman's brother was the theater manager.
Oh, nice.
Seriously. And I remember going into that theater not really knowing what to expect. The only thing I was familiar with, I knew who Richard Donner was. I was familiar with the Salkinds from the 3 and the 4 Musketeers. Mm-hmm. But I went in there with no preconceived notions, and I came from that theater feeling like I had religion.
Yeah.
I mean, I was grinning for a solid half hour, and I'm like going home and telling all my friends, oh my God, you have got to see this thing. You'll understand why I'm still buying comics if you watch this film. So yeah, it was totally amazing. So it made a big impression on me when I saw it in the theater for the first time. And I've been known to crank that thing out every now and then and rewatch it. So
I'll rewatch that anytime. I had that a few years ago. They came out with like a steel case, a collection of all the Superman movies.
Yes.
And I actually somebody bought that for me for Christmas. And I don't think I've ever actually watched Superman 3 or 4 since I first watched it when I was a kid. But
yeah, you're a far better person for that than I feel.
But I love the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. Really, really cool thing that they did.
I agree with you. I really would have liked to have seen Donner, continue with the series. I mean, I was a fan of Richard Lester. I love the Help movies. I love everything else I'd seen him do. But when it came down to it, Donner gave it the gravitas or the verisimilitude. That's where I learned that word, verisimilitude. So I really dug the Donner versions. Yeah.
You know those videos that show you like a timeline, and they're giving you some sort of information, and you're watching over the course of time how, whether it's like the Marvel franchise versus DC or, whatever.
Yeah.
This was about superhero movies. And of course, like Superman 1 was the original superhero movie. I was watching, like, it was just at the top through the, like, we're going like decades. It didn't get overtaken until like 2018 in terms of how much money it has brought in internationally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which it's just insane to think about the fact that like Endgame was the one that finally overtook it. Not Spider-Man, not, any of these like big, huge franchises, 2, 3, and 4, just like almost immediately were just, taken out, by Blade or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But yeah, that one, it was really interesting to see that it had that much of a commanding for such a long time.
Oh yeah, and I think part of it was the fact that Richard Donner took, like the Marvel movies and like the Tim Burton Batman, he took it totally seriously, and they weren't afraid to throw money at it too.
Yeah.
Whereas before, George Reeves did a Superman movie, and it was okay. He was fantastic. A lot of these, superhero films were like you could see the strings on the puppet as it's flying across the screen, sort of thing.
Yeah.
They didn't bother to give us, the top-notch people. But here we had one of the writers was the guy who wrote Bond movies. We had the director who had done like The Omen and things like that. We had special effects people from Great Britain who were like the top in the entire field, this side of Lucasfilms, and they're when they said you'll believe a man can fly, they did everything they could to make it work. I still remember that one scene, that time leap from young Clark Kent to when he goes into the fortress where Jeff East becomes Christopher Reeve, and that scene where Chris just kind of lifts his feet up and just very delicately flies around the periphery of the Fortress of Solitude, and I'm like, my jaw is in my lap, because it's like, that was just so ballet. It was like ballet, and it was so beautiful, and the suit moved right, he moved right. It was, it's just a superlative movie, and again, Reeve did such an amazing job. He was such a gifted actor, and you would think that a serious actor, trained at Juilliard and all that, wouldn't, reduce himself to being in a film. But even if he did it initially for the money, he put so much of himself in that and took it so seriously that you're watching, you think, well, how can I not take this seriously?
Yeah.
Then there's Superman 4. Next question.
Let me strain as my nails grow long with a volcano behind me. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I mean, we keep talking. I just read today that, we're going to get the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. Yay!
Yeah.
But there is supposedly director's cut of the original Suicide Squad. Yeah. And Kevin Smith is lobbying for Batman Forever. There is a piece of that. I've read the original screenplay. There is this long piece in there that I wish had been in it because it explained why it's called Batman Forever.
Yeah, I read that too. Isn't it about it's a scene with him and a bat essentially, right? Yeah, and it's very similar to the comic Batman Year One.
Yeah.
Or not Batman, Batman The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller, where the bat crashes through. It's not the same, but it's similar to that. So it's I've heard that too. I'm very interested to see, what Schumacher's take was. And how the studio changed it, and we know how that goes.
Right. So, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Like I said, I've read that portion of the script, and it was all very psychological about why Bruce Wayne will be Batman forever. By the same token, I understand that there is miles and miles of footage with the Nuclear Man from Superman 4. It was pulled out of the movie, for time. Because it's Golem Gobus, you know how that goes. They made it so they could show it more and more often. But now that we have streaming services, especially, and people are taking advantage of it heavily, that maybe now's the time to get some splicing tape and put that bad boy together and give us a 2.5 hour Superman 4. I promise you, it'll be like Clockwork Orange. I'll probably be strapped into a chair with those little things holding my eyelids open during some of that. But again, there's a case where Christopher Reeve is acting his backside off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he came up with a great idea for the story. And Margot Kidder had a great brief appearance in there. And a lot of the acting wasn't that bad, but it just really kind of shortchanged Christopher Reeve because I don't think it could decide whether it wanted to be a commentary on the current state of nuclear affairs or we want to punch him up with the big blonde guy. It's like, pick one.
Yeah. Yeah, and so much of those types of movies, like Tim Burton had similar trouble with Batman Returns because he made McDonald's mad, because they wanted so badly to market it for children, but Batman Returns wasn't really. I mean, you could watch it as a kid. I watched it as a kid. I saw it in theaters when I was a kid, but it wasn't a kid's movie, and Tim Burton didn't want to make a kid's movie after making what he made in '89 with the original Batman, and then so a lot of that stuff is the studios want to push toys. They want to, it's all marketing, and if you choose to go this direction and the movie is this direction, well, it's not going to work.
Exactly.
It never does, and that's why, unfortunately, we ended up getting down the road Batman and Robin with George Clooney,
which I like. Great. Bat nipples aside,
it's great now as a and of course, I saw it when I was probably in middle school is when it came out for me, and I enjoyed it when it first came out. But as an adult, I was like, this is dumb, but it's supposed to be. They went back to the tongue-in-cheek stuff, and if you watch it with that mentality, it's a great movie.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like The Spirit. If you watch The Spirit, if you treat it as a parody of real action films and good action films, you can sit through it. But if you treat it as an homage to Will Eisner, you can hear Will whirling in his grave. He's trying to drill his way out. So
what else you got? So far, you've given us, I think, what, 2 movies?
Two. Yeah. Yes.
We'll make it down the list eventually.
We'll make it down to 5. I got a surprise or two. And my love of comics and pulp shows massively in my next 2 selections. The last one will surprise you. The Phantom with Billy Zane. And there are 3 words that make that whole film worthwhile: Catherine Zeta-Jones. But no, it is a wonderful film. And Patrick McGowan, one of my favorite actors ever. I grew up on Secret Agent Man and The Prisoner that he did. It was great seeing him in his last film role. But Billy Zane, again, like Christopher Reeve, threw himself into the role so heavily that he believed it. You had to believe it. And it was a good, fast-moving script with romance and all the proper elements. So I loved The Phantom. I think it was hampered by poor marketing. Slam Evil. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually remember those old posters that were up. They took ads in the comics and stuff like that. I remember that. I'm just like, that looks dumb. And then I watched it. My parents took me to see it, and I loved it because I loved that. I love the Rocketeer. I love the Shadow, and that's really because of the movies. That's my parents were like, "Oh, you like these characters? Well, here's a radio show. Here's some old comics and stuff like that." So it was a pretty cool connection to that.
That is very cool.
I think that probably was the first comic book movie that I ever saw.
Oh wow!
I wasn't really into comics as a kid, more into video games, and I think it was something like we had one of those weekend passes for HBO or something like that, and it was on HBO. But I'm pretty sure I can't think of one before that. Yeah, it was probably my first comic book movie. I loved it. I thought it was great.
It really was, and it had like little Easter eggs that were an homage to the original Lee Falk script that I really liked, such as the other character. I'm blanking out on his name. The one that was Diana Palmer's former boyfriend. In the first year or 2 of the Phantom comic strip, that was who the Phantom really was. It was like a dual identity kind of thing, where he was masquerading as this college kid, / adventurer. And then about a year in, that's when Falk came up with the idea of the Ghost Who Walks. And the strip changed from there. But that was just a nice little bit. Shows that the writer, I think it was David Koepp, I think it was, did his homework.
Yeah.
And that was just such a sweet thing to see. I really enjoyed that film. But you mentioned also just now my number 4. And these are in no particular order, but this might be my favorite of all of them. The Rocketeer.
Really? Okay.
I love that movie. It's so much fun. I watch it at least once or twice a year.
Oh, I do too. I do too. Yeah. I mean, again, I came from the comic book side of it because I was managing a comic shop when the original comics from Pacific Comics came out. And it was just such a faithful adaptation. And the casting, again, they got I couldn't have picked anybody better. And Neville Sinclair, in my own writing, that one scene towards the end where he's got the Rocketeer and Jenny held off, and he has that thing, she's like, everything about you is a lie. You said you loved me. And that moment where he just looks like so hurt. And then, he's like, I wasn't lying. I was acting. And I'm like, ooh, dying of fire, you SOB. And sure enough, hey, thank you, Hollywood. Give the audience what they want to see. But that moment of possible redemption, and it is pulled back by the villain, and it's like, okay, you're on your own. Why is that the karma bus I hear honking? But and again, it's got humor, it's got romance, it has got every bleeping thing you could want in a film. No matter who you are, no matter what your geek level. But if you're a geek, your butt's in that seat watching that thing. I agree with you. It's an amazing film, and it does not get old or dated even in watching that. So
I think it still holds up. I wish the guy who played the Rocketeer, I can't remember his name.
Billy Campbell.
Yeah, I wish he was in more. He doesn't do a whole lot that I've seen, at least.
Yeah. I think he's still a very busy actor, but I think he does like a lot of family stuff now, which I admit I don't gravitate towards, because it has like human emotions and feelings and crap like that.
We're all dead inside here. So
exactly. I'm just this withered, dark husk where my heart used to be. So, but I've gotten used to it, so it's all right. But no, I just don't gravitate towards family dramas. having lived through so many of my own, I don't need to be watching an imaginary version of that stuff.
Right.
So,
Right.
but yeah, I agree. Everybody, Jennifer Connelly, Alan Arkin, just everybody up and down the row is, so well suited for that film. I just, that's probably my favorite. So, and now we come to number 5.
All right.
Casablanca. I love that film.
I've never actually seen it.
I was going to say the same thing.
I feel like a terrible movie person. I hate, because that is a classic, and everybody talks about how great it is. And I've never seen it. So I'll have to watch it soon.
You really should. I saw it. I was an adult when I saw it. I had a friend who was doing community theater, and he had been cast as Bogey in Play It Again, Sam, the Woody Allen play.
Okay,
about a person who sees the ghost of Humphrey Bogart, who is trying to tell him how to live his life, and it's going very badly. But Bogart is, he's the quintessential tough guy for the time. He's kind of like the Clint Eastwood of his day. And he plays this loner who wants to get away from all of World War II, and he's haunted by the woman he once loved. And meanwhile, he's playing this delicate balancing game between the French resistance and the Nazis that are running the Casablanca area and who are allowing him to keep his club open. And there's some great performance from Grace Kelly and Peter Lorre. I love Peter Lorre as a horror actor.
Yeah.
And there are just so many great moments. And when you find out about the making of it, it was like turmoil. You think modern shows are, modern movies have so much drama behind the cameras. This was like the prototype for all of them. It's the thing about some guy typing new script pages on the set and handing it to the writer. And speaking of scripts, now here's a good reason to see it. One of the writers of it was Lee Brackett.
Really?
Yes, from The Empire Strikes Back. And she was also married to a pulp writer named Edmund Hamilton, who, when he wasn't writing novels and pulp stories, also wrote adventures of Superman and Batman and the Legion of Superheroes in the 50s and 60s.
Huh.
So
all right, I have a whole nother reason to watch this movie now.
Yeah, you do, and it's one of those things where you watch movies like when I watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, I could sense it was just a little bit of an element of, their chemistry is a little stronger than
it's a little too good.
Yeah. The only part where they don't seem convinced of it is when they're trying to kill each other. So but you're sitting there going, those two are doing the horizontal mambo. I just know they are. But you don't see any of the chaos show up on the screen with Casablanca, and it is just such a wonderful film that it is a classic for a reason, and I think it's one of those films if you're a film buff, you really need to see it. It's like watching Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
Which
I have seen that.
And that's a great film. I saw that when I was a kid. That was my mom insisted that I watch some good movies instead of all the crap that I gravitated to. So that's my top 5. And another honorable mention is Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
Oh, yes. I always said, and I think this might be why I lean towards Zack Snyder's version of Batman the most, because it's about the closest we've ever gotten outside of Tim Burton. I've always said I wanted a Batman movie in the style of Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
How awesome would that be? But yeah, I love that movie. The only part, I'm not a huge Gwyneth Paltrow fan.
She's a great actress because she can convince you on the screen that she's not a raving lunatic. I am not buying a candle. That's no way to sell me a candle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. No thanks. She's a bit touched, but
her head doesn't cast a shadow. Yeah,
but the only movies that I really like, I do enjoy her in the Marvel movies. I think she makes a great Pepper Potts. I think she's excellent alongside Robert Downey Jr. So she does a good job in that. And then of course she was great in Seven. I loved how it ended. you know. So what's in the box?
With her getting her head cut off.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes, that was great. Or Shakespeare in Love. That was a good film too.
Yeah. I forgot she was in that, wasn't she?
And Great Expectations.
Right. There we
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for proving me wrong, guys. Jeez.
No problem. Any other childhood dreams you'd like to destroy? I've got all night, man.
Well, Brian, tell us a little about your story. How'd you get into writing prose and comics?
Well, when I was young, like I said, I was a big comic book fan. This was back in the days long before comic shops. And yes, that's right, folks. We didn't have comic shops back in the day. We had to go to grocery stores back when we were hunting and gathering with the rest of the tribe. But no, my parents, I lived in this very small community. We had like a mom and pop store. It was, I think my living room is bigger than the inside of this, the store I'm remembering. And of course, the grown-ups want to talk, so they put me in the corner and look at the pictures on the funny books.
Yeah.
And so I'm, one morning I'm sitting with my mom at breakfast. I was about 3 years old. And we were having like one of the Chex cereals along with Kellogg's Corn Flakes. And I'm saying, Mom, I know Kellogg's Corn Flakes because I recognize the rooster on the front because that's on Superman. Now, how did you know to buy this other cereal? And she's like, well, we read the writing. I'm like, writing? What's that, Mom? And then she's explaining the whole 9 yards about writing. And I said, not wanting to be left out, I said, well, can you teach me how to read? And so that's where, of course, comics came in, reading cereal boxes. And of course, my mom said at a certain point that, well, if you read regular prose, we'll let you keep reading comic books. And I'm like, yeah. So
there you go.
Yeah, and so I started reading like short stories and stuff, some space opera from Robert Heinlein and the like. And when I was in third grade, I finally tackled my very first novel, which happened to be Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, because I was a huge fan of the Universal horror.
Wow, you were in the third grade when you read that, huh?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't a hard slog for me. Because there were a lot of adult concepts in there that I really wasn't familiar with. Being third grade, good heavens, in the middle of a cornfield. But and I started reading more novels, and I would read like the classics illustrated novel versions of the novels. Then go later in life, I would go and find the originals and try to read those. So I got a good base on the classics, but in the mid-'60s, I discovered Doc Savage and The Shadow and fell in love with the pulps. And during all this time, comics would come out like once a month, every 2 months, 3 months. You may never see another issue again, more or less like today. And so I would make up my own adventures with the characters. So, and this went on. And then one day when I was in seventh grade, I was delivering one of those incredibly dull, what I did over my Christmas vacation speeches. We had Christmas, duh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Real exciting, folks. Hung out with the parents all weekend.
Right.
Yeah. Riveting. It was great.
Yeah. Multiply that by about 25, and that's the theme for the entire class. Well, I had delivered mine, and I guess even at that age, because I read a lot, I had a better idea of story structure than my peers, but I didn't exactly have the narrative structure down the way I should, because at one point I'm trying to describe the tree, and the beauty is after you plugged it in, but unfortunately, due to a very unfortunate set of word choices, I didn't make the tree sound lit up so much as my teetotaling parents. Teacher was not real happy with me promoting drunkenness in the class, and then she called my parents, who then registered their sternest disapproval. And so I figured I better get this crap right.
Right. Yeah.
And then I realized, well, somebody's filling these words in the book. Somebody's putting words in these word balloons.
Yeah.
There you go.
Aha! Here's a vocation where I don't have to wear trousers. I am so there. So I, started reading Writer's Digest and studying writing and everything. Wrote my first book when I was 21 and made sure no one saw it because it was a total piece of flaming murd. And I went on. I kept writing. I'd write like business plans, short stories, amateur comic scripts, and fast forward late 90s, I became a professional writer when I got my first play done. I had a friend who was with the community theater in Danville, Illinois, the aforementioned megapolis of Danville, and he said, I've done this play competition before. You're going to write one. And I said, I've never written a play. He goes, I know you can write, and I want one play I can read. Because not everything that comes over the transom is gold, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And yes, I've done my share of that. So I wrote it, and it got produced, and not once, but a couple of times. And fast forward that to where I parlayed that credit into doing interview transcripts for various companies, like Tomorrow's for Alter Ego and Back Issue and such. And then with the editors, I said, hey, I've got an idea for an article. Can I submit it? And so then, that develops the freelancing. And then fast forward to 2012, where, I never do the New Year resolution thing.
Yeah.
Trust me, guys, this story will end eventually, I promise.
No, you're good. This is great, man.
But anyway, 2012, I thought, I'm going to make a resolution by Jingo. I am going to work on my writing so that one day I can do this full time. Okay. Well, I worked for the local water company, which was publicly owned. It had stock exchange ratings and everything. And one day, the district manager sticks his head in my office and says, Brian, would you come with me? Well, I've been in high school, so I know that tone of voice.
Right.
I am now going to die.
Yeah, we're going down to the principal's office is what it is. And, I knew that by heart. I could have done a wait until dark, turn out all the lights. I could still walk my way over to the principal's office. I know how many steps it is. But anyway, I go in there, and there is the man who is in charge of human relations for half of America. And I'm thinking, okay.
There you go.
No pressure.
Yeah. And I'm like totally bewildered at this point. And so they start telling, and I just come off of a stint where, for about 4 months, I was actually the supervisor of my department because my regular supervisor had to have surgery. And so I took over, and I acquitted myself well. And that's what the HR guy said. Brian, you've done a great job. You have been fabulous. We're so grateful for all you've done for the company. But you knew that was coming. But our corporate office, because we did so many huge projects involving millions of dollars, this is water infrastructure, okay?
Right.
The one utility you must have. I don't care what you say about cable TV. You'll die without water, folks.
Right.
You may only want to die without cable TV. But anyway.
You can't clean yourself with cable TV.
Exactly, yeah. When you learn to eat one of those things, come back and talk, and I'll change my story. But anyway, there was a guy whose job was to basically predict how the stock market would perform. And so that they could justify 6 months, a year down the road, having the money to do these projects. Well, he was off by a couple of percentage points. So we would have a shortfall. And the guy told me that day, he said, well, Brian, you're not the only person we're doing this to. There are 25 other people in the state of Illinois that we are letting go to make up for this shortfall.
Yeah.
And I tell people this is my anti-corporate rant because here I am, done a great job, and I'm being let go, but this boob out east who didn't have a shiny enough crystal ball gets to keep his job.
Right.
Good planning. That is corporations for you. But anyway, and while they're trying to explain my severance package and all the things they're going to do to help keep me alive, I remember sitting watching the clock, watching the little second hand go around. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the bills aren't going to stop just because I'm not working. How will I keep my wife into the low rent existence she's come to love? How am I going to keep up my obligations?
Hashtag bring cookie home.
Hashtag bring cookie home. That's why we're working it, folks. But the thing, after 45 seconds, almost exactly 45 seconds, I'd gone through all 6 stages of Kubler-Ross by now. Okay? And I looked at the clock and I thought, wait a minute. I've got my plan B.
Yeah.
I'm a writer.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go home and I'm going to, like, this is what I've been wanting all my life, an opportunity to sit and write. I will send stuff out, and if I can't get my stuff up to the point where I'm making a living, then I'm going to find another job. But at least I'll have this to do, and it's got so much opportunity. And to this day, that district manager is still going around the water company going, why wasn't Brian crying? We usually have people crying when this happens. But he's like, hold my stuff. I got to get out of here. I got things to do.
Yeah.
But I'm not claiming I've ever been the model employee anyway. But the thing is, they set me up with a reemployment agency. You ever need resumes? I'm your man. But the thing is, we had a number of webinars on how to write a resume, how to interview at jobs, etc. And one day they had one said, we have one on electronic publishing. And I attended. And I almost didn't make it. What would have happened if I didn't?
Yeah.
Let's talk about forces beyond us. But anyway, I listened to this, and after 1 hour, I felt the same way after I left Superman the movie. All I saw was opportunity. Everything I had ever wanted to do was now possible as far as being a writer. You know, you've got with print on demand, you've got inventory control. With electronic publishing, you can bypass the gatekeepers and put it out there. But if you do want your work to really shine, there are people out there who you can pay or barter with to get their services to make your stuff look better.
Yeah.
And fast forward to now, I now have 7 publications of my own through my Rising Tide in print on Amazon and Smashwords. I have been in 4 other anthologies with about a half dozen more waiting to see print. I've written a ton of comic book stories, edited scripts for 2 or 3 companies, and published one myself and did a successful Kickstarter for it 2.5 years ago. So other than that, I haven't done a thing.
Yeah, right.
So, but yeah, it's been a great life, and you know, not that I've got anything wrong with me, and I'm kicking off at any minute. But one of the main benefits of this is I met you guys.
Yeah.
I met you guys, and as we call them, my Nevermorians. I am also what they call Facebook famous. It's like one step above being MySpace famous. But anyway,
yes.
Yeah.
It's a couple steps above MySpace famous, I think.
Yeah, at least my venues people are still going to. But yeah, and I'm a reasonably successal broadcaster in that you know, I have a good audience. They're a great audience, in fact. Love them dearly. Some of them are a little problem, but
I'm
but
sorry.
The hosts. No.
Sorry.
You are the leader among the good ones. You are one of the white hats in our group, which shows you what they're like. But anyway,
the bar is so low. It's so low.
Yeah, there are snails going over it. But anyway, but no, seriously, it's a great community. You know, if somebody needs something, we get it to them. If like somebody has a Kickstarter, we try to support it. We spread the word about what we do. They have been very supportive of me, I'm glad to say, and the people within the community. Yeah. It is a very positive group of people, and they're totally bat crap crazy, but I love them. Or maybe I love them because they're bat crap crazy. We have that in common. So, but they're very creative. We have artists, we have writers, we have musicians, we have other broadcasters. Just like Brian here with his comic book and everything. So, and I see instruments behind Jeremy, and I'm thinking he's, either got a beautiful decoration motif, or maybe he uses some of those things. So, see, so,
I love it.
It's a great artistic, supportive artistic community, and, it's just impossible to describe how I truly feel about them without sounding like a Hallmark movie. So,
and in all seriousness, though, I mean that's kind of the point of the reasoning, I guess, behind your Rising Tide publications. That's, you've said that many times on your show that, that's what it, that's kind of what that stands for, right? Is everyone, kind of rising and bringing everybody along with each other.
Yeah.
Exactly. For those of you who don't know, it was based on something President John F. Kennedy used to say, that a rising tide raised all ships.
Yeah.
And I found ever since I turned full time here that I got advice from people that didn't have to give it to me.
Yeah.
I got support from people who dropped what they were doing to help. And the only way you can pay it back is to pay it forward.
Yeah.
And to me, the rising tide is like, let's just say the three of us. Okay. I stop looking after myself and I look after you two. But Jeremy looks after Brian and me, and Brian looks after Jeremy and me. I'm not looking out for me, but I got two people now looking out for me.
Right.
My support system is doubled. Multiply that by however many people you have in your tribe.
Yeah.
And I have to say, we've got so many people. We've got some incredible writers in this group. And the wonderful thing about the community is we're not competitive with each other. I mean, there's people that come in, and of course, the first question is, what can you guys do for me?
Right.
You failed the test.
Yeah.
That's not rising tide for us.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it sound like it's this cult of personality that revolves around me, because I don't want it to.
Mm-hmm.
It should be everyone. But if you come in and say, hey, how can I help you guys? That's how it works. Yeah. That we all look out for each other, and in the spirit of non-competitiveness, the only person I'm competing with is myself, to try to better myself. And so that there are people. I've got a friend who is a USA Today bestselling author.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hint, I'm not. And I have friends that have, like won awards, that have, I've got another friend that she is a top-notch romance writer. Another one that has come close to being on the USA Today bestseller list, but she's she was invited to become part of a franchise. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten to, do a lot of things myself because other people have seen what we do for each other.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a good thing to be able to look outside of yourself and to pace yourself. So, because my feeling is I want to hang around these people forever.
Yeah.
And so I want to be worthy to hang with them. So it's not like I'm coasting on my glory. I remember back in the day, I wrote a book about Santa Claus being made from the dead. So that's not how it's going to work. It's going to be, okay, I've released my 20th book, and let's talk about what we're doing right now, sort of thing. So that's how the rising tide goes for us.
Mm-hmm. I was actually just texting with Brian the other day. I just had an opportunity to help another comic book creator create some different assets and things like that for some projects that he has upcoming. Nice. And I just, texted Brian and was like, this is what I want to do. Not sit around and make my own content, right? But to be able to work with Brian and help him create a Kickstarter so that he, reaches the financial goals that he has, or work with Chad and things like that. That brings me a lot more joy than just trying to make myself famous, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. That's brilliant. I love hearing that.
Yeah, and just to brag on Jeremy a little bit, he is phenomenal at he's created every single one of my Kickstarter videos and will continue to do so. And I always attribute all success or half the success to him just by getting people to the page with his excellent videos. So
that works. I didn't throw out his email address when you started showing me some of his stuff. Yeah, believe me, I understand. And this again is where like Brian mentioned you to me, and one day I'm hoping we'll do business together. So that's the way it works. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we've heard you talk about the many projects that you've worked on and in the past, and you've got to have some source for all of that. And so can you talk about some of your biggest inspirations for your work?
Gladly.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, go order a pizza. This will take a while. Well, one of my initial inspirations was my late mother, because she actually, I found this out when I was a young kid. Before she became a housefrau and mother, she actually was working to become a fashion designer.
Oh, wow.
And she had a really good, she had a really nice drawing style that she taught me how to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not very well on my part, but anyway, she had hopes for doing that, and it turned out that she wanted to be a writer late in life. And when I was moving from Illinois to Indiana, I came across some of her writings, and I'm like, I'm going to print these. It's the least I can do for her. And then I found out recently she was talking to one of my best friends. They were talking about collaborating on some stuff, and I'm like, Mom never told me that. And he's like, yeah, I thought she told you. I'm like, no. So first and foremost, it's my mother. Yeah, very cool. I was always proud of her in life, and the more I learn about her, the prouder I get.
That's great.
Yeah, but also my peers, like I mentioned, and to. I almost hate to mention any of them for fear of leaving any out, but I think they know who they are, and I hope they do. Also, as far as writing prose, Mary Shelley, of course. She was my first. And
oh, wait.
Yeah, I know.
Yep, we got to.
Drink.
There you go.
Every time we do innuendo on my shows, we have to take a drink.
Yeah, sorry, I left Jeremy hanging on that one. He's like, what is happening?
I have a drink.
Okay, there we go.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it again. All right.
Okay, here we go. And having me on the show means we'll probably drown before this hour is over. But anyway, Mary Shelley, because Frankenstein, I go back to it so often because it is the original novel of alienation. And science without pondering the consequence. It is a heavy, heavy book, and it's also a good read. There's romance and violence and all kinds of stuff in it. Bram Stoker, of course, for Dracula. What an amazing book.
Yes.
Also, people like Lester Dent, who created Doc Savage. Walter Gibson, who did The Shadow. Harlan Ellison. What an incredible wordsmith. I mean,
yes.
Also, Don Pendleton, who was literally the father of the 70s action series book. He wrote Mac Bolan, The Executioner.
Oh, okay.
And I got to meet him one time, and I was expecting. Cool. Yeah, you see, you read these hard-boiled books, you're expecting some guy like, yeah, I'm Pendleton, who wants to make some? And he comes in to this comic convention in Indianapolis wearing a charcoal gray three-piece suit, and he's like, hello, everyone, how are you? Hello, I'm Don Pendleton, and I read stories about the mob. And I have him to thank because I've actually met two mafia dons, and I'm still alive because of Don Pendleton.
Whoa, hold on now. What?
Okay, here's the story. Well, one is I'm a storyteller, okay? That's what says on the resume. But no, the latest one was a gentleman who has left the mob, and his nickname was the Rottweiler. That gives you an idea of the gentility of his career.
Indeed, yes.
But he's really a fun guy to talk to. I've only talked to him like 2 or 3 times on the phone. We have a mutual friend, is what it is.
Okay.
But I mentioned the first mob Don I had met to him. He goes, "Oh yeah, I remember him. I knew him." I'm like, "Oh good."
Did you kill him?
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's one of the things I learned from the Pendleton books: you don't ask too many questions.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, but back in 1977, my uncle had gotten cancer. And I had just come out of college at the time, and he said, well, would you come out and manage my affairs? Because he worked for the Navy, actually, or he worked for a company that worked for the Navy. And eventually this company, here's a little bit of trivia, my uncle was part of the team that converted sonar readouts from analog to digital. Back in the mid-'70s. Cool. And then his company, the company he worked for, eventually went to Hollywood, where they consulted on military-based movies. And if you ever see the Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see the bridge of the Russian submarine. You have William Carroll Barnett to thank for that. That was my uncle.
Oh,
And,
wow.
That's cool.
And I'm not saying he had a hand in my development, but we'll get back to the mafia guy in a moment.
No, yeah.
But my uncle was one of the most evil men that ever lived, and I'm proud to say it. But when he went into the Navy, and he was one of the first people in their computers program. Of course, I'm a kid.
Yeah.
And of course, we got to get rid of the kid if we're going to have any sort of discussion going on here, especially of an adult nature. So we were at my grandmother's, and my Uncle Bill said, I'll keep him busy. I've got some magazines he can read. And no, it wasn't dino porn or anything. But we got to work that in. But no, my mother almost screamed when she came out and saw me with all these magazines around me. One side was all Mad magazine.
Nice.
Back when Mad was really dangerous, when Harvey, just barely post Kurtzman era, and the other side were for men only, savage battle tales, that sort of thing. Where I was the love slave of the left-handed Vietnamese communist army, that sort of thing. With the women, with the beautiful illustrations of the beautiful women who couldn't find a shirt to save their lives, but their hair conveniently fell over their breasts, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Well, Mom was real happy with my uncle when she saw this, and I'm 5 years old at the time I'm doing this. So, but the thing is, she didn't get mad about the men's magazine. She's like, "You let my son read Mad?" And, yeah, that explains a lot about Brian. But anyway, back up to '77, I went out to be with my uncle, and to like I said, while he's convalescing, I'm taking care of his affairs, keeping the household running. And I noticed his roommate, this kindly old, soft-spoken elderly gentleman. I'm sitting there talking to my uncle. I see 3 policemen walk in uniform, fall to their knees, and kiss this huge ring he's got that would probably have choked Secretariat if he swallowed it.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, and I had read enough of the Pendleton novels to know this wasn't part of the local archdiocese.
Yeah,
so
he's connected.
Is he connected. And one day, out of the blue, he just says, "Brian, I noticed you watching the cops coming in." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Do you know what I do?" I said, "No, but I'd love for you to tell me."
Yeah.
And he said, "I am the mob don, I work for the mob here in Newport, Rhode Island." And and I'm hearing this, and I'm going, my lie detector is not going off.
Yeah.
It has that ring of truth. And so we got to talking, and he was, he raised dogs. He talked about his grandkids, talked about running numbers and kneecapping people. The usual stuff that shrinks talk about. Well, about a month before we were scheduled to leave, my uncle was about to leave the hospital, but his roommate was on the way out. He was checking out that day, and I got to say goodbye to him. And he's like, "Brian, what are you doing for money?" And I'm like, "Well, I've got some money of my own. My uncle's supporting me. Mom's sending me some stuff every now and then, so I'm all good." He goes, "Well, I was wondering if you wanted a job." I'm like, "Doing what?"
Yes.
Doing what? This is where we are going to start getting a little inquisitive. Doing what? And he's like, "Well, I need a chauffeur." And at that moment, all I could think of was the Godfather 2, I think it was, with the toll booth.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, man.
And I'm like, no, I can't do it. Because we're going to leave in 2 weeks. Yeah, that's it. And you get me trained, and heck, and you waste it all because, I'm going to go in 2 weeks, and I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. And, and he starts laughing. And he looks at me and goes, "You're thinking of the toll booth scene, aren't you?" And I'm like, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, if he shows up with cannolis, run.
Oh my God, yeah. If it gone to that, straight out the window, I don't care what floor we're on. And the funny thing was, then I talked to the other gentleman who was with the mob, and we got to talking about my old acquaintance. And he said, "What job did he offer you?" I said, "Chauffeur." And he goes, "You didn't take it, right?" I said, "I'm still here, right? What do you know that I don't?"
Right.
And he said, like in The Godfather, they have meets like in restaurants or in parking lots or whatever. He said, "Do you know who they shoot first?"
The driver.
The driver, so the guy can't get away. And I'm like, one of the best career moves I ever made in my life. Because I'm here today to talk about it.
That's
right.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's insane.
And every now and then I look back at my life and I'm thinking, God, I'm boring. Jeez, here I am. I'm broadcasting 4 times a week. I write books about like superheroes and cemeteries and things like that. But what has really happened to me? And then I remember a story like this. Okay, maybe I'm not quite as dull as I hoped. So
I was almost a chauffeur for the mob.
Awesome. Right.
Oddly enough, that's not worked its way onto my resume. Gosh, I
feel like it should. Yeah,
I think it should. Yeah,
I feel like the next never mind the furthermore's intro should include that somewhere.
Yeah. If I can work it in, but we have worked in that. I am a former mortician's assistant, so
that is true.
That's part of my resume.
Yeah, and since we're gonna touch on that in a little bit, but let's go ahead and I have to ask, what's the story behind that?
Okay. I had my own comic shop in 1994, and as we all know, if you want to make a small fortune in owning a comic shop, you start out with a large one. Yeah. So, and we opened a comic shop in a town where the local Air Force base was about to close. So anyway, the timing, it's all timing.
Yeah.
But anyway, my mother had passed away about 4 years before, and I was blessed to have a mortician help me through probably some of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. At the time, I am the least prepared to make them.
Yeah.
Because I was not thinking straight at that time. But the thing was, I thought, well, this would be a way to help people. To help them in their hour of need. And we did pre-arrangement, which was coming in at the time, so that when that day happens, the people you leave behind are not burdened with making a lot of decisions, because the decisions have already been made, and you do it now, you save money down the road, and that's the whole spiel.
Yeah.
And I had a friend of a friend who worked for one of the local cemeteries, and he said, "Would you be interested in becoming a counselor?" And I said, "What kind of training do I need?" And he said, "Do you know how to tie a Windsor knot?" Because that's about all you'll need. You need look good, smell good. That's about it. And I said, "Okay, let's give it a whirl." And so I worked for about a year there at this little cemetery on the edge of Champaign, Illinois, the home of the University of Illinois. And it was illuminating. You got to see people at their worst and also at their best. At that time, it was really you met a lot of really interesting people. And if you're a fan of quote unquote graveyard humor, like if you hang around people that make life and death decisions, that there is a special kind of humor they employ. Plus, I got to go to a mortician's convention.
Okay. So really quick,
yes.
The reason that I wanted to ask this, I was genuinely interested, but you and I have a similar background here.
Yeah? Oh, really?
I'm just on the other end of it. I actually worked for a couple years at Kentucky Organ Donor Affiliates.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was a tissue coordinator. So I actually, before when the donor is deceased and they have signed their license and they're going to donate, me and my team go in and we got heart, bone, sometimes skin, the corneas, things like that, surgically removed, and then we would sew them up and send them off to the funeral home.
Sure.
And so when you talked about like the convention, I went to a funeral home convention because of my profession at the time. Was it a similar interesting crowd that you got to know?
I have a feeling we're going to exchange horror stories at one point in time soon.
Probably.
I have been to numerous comic book conventions. I've been to various other kind of pop culture conventions, I have never met a more bizarre assemblage of people in my entire life.
Oh, it's so true.
And it's so much fun.
Yeah.
I rarely have laughed so hard,
Yeah.
with people I don't know.
Yeah.
That it was just incredible. It's like we're hanging out at the pool at one point. Here comes a guy in a 3-piece suit, just puts his, takes off his shoes, puts his feet right in the pool. He hasn't changed his suit, and I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
It was illuminating. It was really brilliant, and it's really given me an appreciation of what funeral directors do for the bereaved. And I only did it for about a year because I found other opportunities coming up. But, I have all kinds of stories about some of the people that would come to the cemetery. And in fact, I've used it in some of my work. And I remember one day it was snowing and we had 3 funerals within an hour and a half of each other. And I had to lead them. My team had to lead them in.
Yeah.
That took coordination. I think the U.S. has invaded some small countries without that much coordination. It took a balancing act worthy of Cirque du Soleil. So, but yeah, it was a great time. I really enjoyed my time there. But a year. The honest thing was I wasn't making a lot of money because it was commission sales.
Right.
And I'm just not a cold caller. I do well at sales, but you got to come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you why this is cool, but I'm not going to go to your house to tell you that it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll be on MySpace if you need me. So.
Oh man. Well, switching gears up a little bit, Brian. What would you say is your favorite piece that you've worked on?
Well, loath as I am to promote myself.
There you go.
I am proud of all my books, but this is the original Skyman Battles of Master of Steam, based on a comic book character from Columbia Comics. It's created by 3 people. The publisher was the guy who edited Action Comics #1 and Detective Comics #1, Mr. Vince Sullivan.
Oh yeah.
And the original writer was Gardner Fox, who created the Justice Society of America, Justice League, Adam Strange, Hawkman, Flash. And the artist was a guy named Ogden Whitney, a brilliant illustrator who worked briefly for Marvel in the 60s on like some of the Western titles and one issue of Nick Fury. But he is probably most famous, aside from Skyman, for a strip called Herbie, the Fat Fury.
Okay.
And it last. Yeah, it is. And it was about this kid. He's shaped like a beach ball. He's dull as dirt. His parents barely like him. And the minute they close the door, he talks to animals. Movie stars, handsome movie star males glare at him with jealousy. The women all want to kiss him, and he gains powers by eating lollipops, which are for a specific. It's just this incredible acid trip of a comic book.
Yeah.
I feel like if there was ever a movie adaptation, Jeremy, you would be perfect for that role.
Yeah.
I do. I feel like that's your future, man. That's your calling.
You have to wear like real big horn rimmed glasses, but you might be able to pull this off. But no, this is my love letter to the old pulps and the old serials. Because I wrote all the chapters to end with like a cliffhanger of sorts, and all kinds of exotic locales, and just the fact that I have a Nazi in steam-driven armor.
Oh, there you go.
That makes it worthwhile there, and all kinds of plot twists and turns. So this is the one I think, and also it had a little bit of a hard genesis because we had some people working with us who are not rowing in the same direction. This is a licensed character actually, because Vince Sullivan, like many publishers of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, bought up the rights from the other creators. And so he had that to negotiate, to sell in later years.
Yeah.
Just in the same way that Jack Leibowitz of DC or National Periodical Publications bought all the rights to Superman for their page rate, basically.
Yeah.
And so the same thing happened with Skyman, and it fell into the hands of a man named Ron France, who had his own publishing outfit in the 80s called Ace Comics. And he did one issue of Skyman with art by Steve Ditko.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And he's got all kinds of stories about working with Ditko.
I've
really
heard. I've
amazing.
heard he's a very interesting guy.
Interesting with a capital I, yeah. Let's just say it's the only thing that might make me read The Fountainhead. Let's put it that way. But anyway, no, he worked with Ditko. Ditko was very professional, very kind. But unfortunately, this is before Diamond Distributing started taking over the industry as they have since the 90s. And back then, you had like a couple dozen of different distributors of varying size around North America. And and of course you get a few, then you lose a lot, then you get a few more, then you lose a lot more. And during one of the loss periods, my friend Ron had a choice. He could either publish the next Skyman or lose his house. Because he had like 5 figures worth of debt from defaulting distributors at the time.
Yeah.
So he chose to keep his house. Foolish man. But anyway, I didn't publish, damn it. But anyway, he, so he held on to it. And so Ron and I were working together we got put together on a project, and we liked each other. And he said, hey, I'm thinking about getting Skyman back in the open. He told me about some plans he had. And of course, I had at the time like 2 books out. And I said, well, Ron, what you need is somebody to write a novel about Skyman and diversify your income streams.
There you go.
I had the line, and I thought he would laugh like you guys are inside. Instead, he laughed and said, well, get busy.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oh, no.
Oh,
that was my first thought, Jeremy. It was like, yeah, haha, I made a joke. Oh, God, what do I do now? I was like, and so I had to write a real fast damn novel. And but we had a few impediments on the way. So it actually was about 2 years old by the time it finally saw print in 2015. But that was also the very first official Rising Tide publication, too.
Oh, cool.
And it has sold in 1-4 countries. Right now, it's sold in Europe and on North America, so it's been a very good book to me too. And
cool.
It's like I said, it's my love letter to the kind of stories I grew up with on Saturday morning before we had 500 channels and everything. So So
do they still have cartoons on Saturday morning? Is that
in my house we do, yeah.
I didn't know if there was like that set thing every Saturday morning.
I think they do still.
I think
it's it's nowhere near like it was. Nowhere near like it was even when we were kids. Like when we were kids, that was probably the end of the Saturday morning cartoons. Was in the early mid 90s was when it kind of started teetering away.
Which is a shame.
It is. I mean, but they have other things. Like that's when like Cartoon Network started becoming big, and so there was literally cartoons all the time. Before that there weren't cartoons. Past you'd have them on Saturday morning, and then you just have some reruns throughout the week to keep the kids entertained, and that was about it.
Yeah.
But no, I think they have some kind of Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not up on the current cartoons really. I'm actually just catching up. Tomorrow I'm going to be watching the Venture Brothers for the first time. So
oh wow,
yeah,
I think I've seen like 2 of those. One of the first things I did when I started doing this full time was I cut the cable because I realized how much of my attention it was taking, and I wanted to get a lot of stuff put out. And but anyway, Jerry Springer went on for several years without me, so I feel he weathered my lack of support well. So
yeah. No, that's key, because there are things like my friends like, oh, did you watch the latest episode of this? I'm like, no, I make a comic.
Yeah.
I
did not watch anything, man. Yeah.
I'm hell around the water cooler because I'm like, I'll
totally make up a story for you, but I don't know what happened.
Yeah, and it's like George R.R. Martin isn't paying me to watch Game of Thrones.
That's
you know what I'm saying? So
exactly.
So yeah, I don't miss it. I'm surprised that I don't miss it any more than I do. The only thing that I halfway keep up on is Doctor Who, because I'm a huge Whovian.
Yeah.
Again, before it was cool, but I'm a trendsetter. and or I'm the only guy out there doing it actually. But no, it's yeah. I love the series for the same reason I like a lot of books, a lot of comics, in that you can tell almost any kind of story with that character. So, one of the things on my bucket list, I'd love to be able to write a Doctor Who novel legally. I
know with that show, I think that no matter when it is, if all I have to do is see a clip of the now I'm drawing a blank. The episode with the painter, very famous.
Oh, the one with Van Gogh. Yes.
Thank you.
With Bill Nighy. Yeah.
Oh gosh. All
His
I have to
monologue at the end. Oh my God.
So great. All I have to do is see the clip of that ending scene where he gets to see everybody enjoy his work.
Yes.
And he's crying, and I cry too, every single time, because it's like, oh man.
Yeah. And there's a scene with Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor where he stops the Master and Missy and explains why he does what he does. And there is one of the greatest performances of a character in self-analysis that I think you'll ever see, where he is explaining that he does what he does. It doesn't always work. In fact, it rarely works, and people die, but maybe I'll keep fewer people from dying, but they'll die eventually, so it's all for nothing. But I do it because it's the right thing to do. And that was one of the reasons I also love the Skyman book, and it's that I had a situation come up where that line fit into that situation. Here's a guy who is wanted by criminals, he's wanted by Nazis, he's wanted by the FBI. He is framed for the murder of his alter ego. And he is meeting with somebody. No spoilers. Go to Amazon.com if you want to find out what the rest of the book's about. But he's got all this, and he's wearing this crazy outfit. And this person asks him, "Well, why, with all this against you, why are you doing this?" And without hesitation, Skyman says, "I do it, sir, because it's the right thing to do." And that's cool. I think, a great lesson for everyone. Do things, not because you're looking for a reward, but simply because, as the Doctor said, it's kind.
Yeah. Kind of storytelling, really, like, I miss those kind of characters anymore. In modern day stories, don't get me wrong, I enjoy like the gray character, that blurs the line between good and evil, but sometimes it's just nice to have a character that is pure. You're either purely evil or purely good. It's good to see that those characters they stand exactly where, on those hard foundations, and they don't really go back and forth. It's you have a lot of characters going back and forth. They blur the lines now, but you don't really see a lot of just a good guy versus a bad guy anymore. And I do miss that.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I'm still to this day attracted by Superman. And I've talked to several people that have written Superman, and they say you always hear, well, he's a big Boy Scout, he's boring. But you talk to some of these guys who wrote him, and they have him nailed in that here is a guy who has the power literally of a god.
Yeah.
And he restrains himself from using it.
Yeah.
It's that struggle, how much do I interfere? But the thing is, he has a strong moral compass.
Yeah.
And it's, how do I help? All the time, it's how do I help others? Here is a man that could, live by himself, but he chooses to live among us as one of us. Yeah. He was raised as one of us. And with all of this incredible power, he could take over the world. Yeah. But instead, he chooses to help everybody, whether it's, stopping a tsunami or getting a kitten out of a tree and making a young child stop crying. It's that sort of character. I agree with you. We need more of that type. Yeah, it's fun to read a Wolverine every now and then. It's fun to read a Punisher or a Doctor Doom. But, for me, I always want somebody who is doing the right things for the right reasons. They may not do it the right way.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite characters is a character from a defunct company called First Comics, Grimjack. And it was written by John Ostrander, who went on to write like The Punisher and The Suicide Squad and a whole bunch of great comics. and it was he was a private detective in this pan-dimensional city called Sinishore.
Okay.
And in one section, magic works.
Yeah.
In another section, magic doesn't work. In another section, internal combustion doesn't work. And some of these switch over.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
he's he's a hard-bitten detective with tragedy in his past and everything. But when it comes down to it, like a Sam Spade or any of the classic detectives, Jim Rockford, whatever, he makes the decision to do what's right rather than to do what's expedient or profitable.
Yeah.
I like that kind of character too, with a little bit of conflict. But like you said, there's nothing wrong with a character who isn't conflicted, who is doing the right thing the right way because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you were talking, describing that character, it reminded me. Have you seen the show The Expanse?
No, I have not.
Sci-fi?
No, I haven't.
In the beginning of the show, there's this detective. This is like far in the future. They're on like an asteroid belt, and he is a detective on this specific asteroid belt. It's Thomas Jane.
Oh yeah, he played he played
Punisher.
Frank Castle. Yeah, the first Punisher movie. He was amazing.
It's that character that you're talking about, where like he is not a good, like his actions leading up till now, he's kind of a drunk or things like that, and your typical like gristly detective,
right?
But his entire character arc is him with this like singular focus on doing this thing because he knew it was the right thing to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's a really good show.
I will have to look for it. I would watch it for Thomas Jane anyway. He is an incredible actor. I like the guys who've done Frank Castle, but he's probably my favorite. So.
Yeah. He's my favorite as well. They did a short film. It was a lot more violent than the movie was.
With Ron Perlman.
Yes.
Yes, that was fantastic. I love that.
It was really good. So, but no, yeah, I agree. Thomas Jane he's my favorite Punisher. I like
scene when he's got the kid like hanging upside down, and he's got the
popsicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was so funny.
And that's when that's my favorite period of the Punisher that Thomas Jane's story reflected. There was this series with Garth Ennis, and who went on to do Preacher and things like that.
Yeah.
And and Steve Dillon was the artist. But it had a very dark humor to it. Like at one point, the Punisher is being chased by these mob guys, and they're ready to blow him away. And Punisher's just running, and he runs into the bear cage. And there's this big bear this big white bear who's been like raised to be docile. Yeah. And so the Punisher just walks up to him. The bear's like, "Oh, hi there!" And the Punisher just hauls up and slugs him in the snout. And takes off running. Yeah. And so the bear's like, "Rrr," and goes after him. And here's these two guys with the guns going, "Wait a minute, why is he running towards us? Wait a minute." And he runs past them. And they're like, "Wait a minute, what just So
that's so funny.
The best one, it was a splash page. It was the first page of the story. And imagine this suburban area. Okay, the suburbs, the classic 60s, 70s suburbs. And half of the houses are destroyed. More are on fire. There's potholes in the street. There's blood everywhere. A couple cars are burning. And you see body bags lining both sides of the road. And it's these two detectives who are part of the plot. And one of them yells at the other, goes, "What do you mean? How can you tell the Punisher's been here?" That was a great joke.
Oh, that's funny.
It was great. Yeah, when they start taking the character seriously, I'm not all that thrilled with them, but when they bring that kind of graveyard humor into it, I'm a fan all over again. So
yeah.
All right, Brian, it's evident that you are a Time Lord. We've talked for a long time about all of the different projects that you are involved in, a part of, spearheaded, all of those things. Let's talk about your Facebook Live shows.
Well, if we must, not that I'm really prepared to or anything.
No, not prepared at all.
Right.
Not the least. No.
Yeah.
If I was prepared, I'd have held that sign correctly. But anyway.
Yeah. So what inspired you to do that?
Well, about 4 years ago, when Facebook was starting to do the live broadcasts, so everybody can get on the air and be a YouTuber, I guess, eventually. I went on the air one morning, late on a Thursday, and I thought, let's talk about me and my colossal ego. I say that because I really don't have much of one, really. But anyway, I got on the air and I thought, well, we'll do like 5 minutes, me talking about my projects, my shows that I'm appearing at, and the books I've got on sale, imploring people to buy them, not for me, but for my wife. And and then get off the air. Well, I started talking about me, and I'm like, God, this is boring as hell. Believe it or not, I'm not, used to talking about myself like I'm a commodity. I've gotten over that, though. But anyway, but no, and after about 10 minutes of this, I'm like, I'm going to just cancel this thing, and I'm going to delete it, and we'll all never speak of this thing again. And then I noticed that little column on the right where all the viewer comments were coming up, and people were saying hello. And it's like, hey, Brian, what are you doing? Hey, Brian, I read that book. That was really good. And everybody will read that book, and they were putting links in and everything. And I started talking to the people that were talking to me. And I'm like, this is a lot more interesting than I am. And in fact, I said, well, we'll do this for another 10 minutes. Well, 20 minutes later, I'm trying to sign off, which again turned into 20 minutes. Well, Brian, don't go yet. I got to tell you something. And it's and so I started doing that. It started out just once a week with Never Mind the Furthermore. Hi there.
There you go.
And
it's right set up this time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. You can tell who the professionals are around here, not me. Anyway, but no, I started doing it once a week to maintain a contact with people I liked. And sometimes I'd run to somebody I hadn't talked to in ages. And it's like, Brian, what are you doing, sort of thing. And also it made a platform where I could talk about my books and such and what I was doing, where I would be appearing, because I have, until this year, I had a rather vigorous personal appearance schedule. And then one time I missed a show because of a show. We had moved the thing from Thursday to Friday, and I had a Friday show. And so I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll start doing Monday. I'll do a Monday to make up. And everybody's like, we like Monday. Do a Monday, too. So I was doing a show Monday and Thursday. And then about 2 years ago, I started doing a nighttime version of it, where the original intent was I would come on. It would be just like the morning show, except I would allow swearing and drinking. Mostly my own. But we didn't. We stayed pure in heart. That's why my strength is as a strength of 10, because my heart is pure. But and we started doing that, and then this thing with since we don't want to be demonetized, we will call it the My Sharona Miley Cyrus Peter pandemic.
Yes.
That started, and yes, it takes a lot of rehearsal. It's like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Every time you say it on your show, I'm impressed, because if I tried to say that often, it would always be just atrocious. I would butcher it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like if you see my shows, I do butcher people's names. I forget people's names, but I can say, the My Sharona Miley Cyrus Peter pandemic flawlessly now. But it's training. But no, then we moved to every day, because people were hurting. People were losing contact with other people. And I was getting people saying, this is a constant. You're on. And I know that a couple times a week I can see your show, and maybe we'll just start laughing, forgetting about what's happening in the news. I also made sure that we talked about the news in a truthful, verifiable way. We did not want to be part of the fake news movement, but we still felt it incumbent upon us, given our platform and our responsibility, to tell the news when we talked about it, but to tell it honestly and to try to explore different sides of it, look at it from more than one angle. And so I was doing that for about 3 months, and then the restrictions started to lift in many states, and I felt as if I had done my part.
Mm-hmm.
So we dropped back to 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central Time.
There you go.
And
It just rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah.
I've said it more than once. But also we turned our nighttime. We had started a nighttime show, like I said a couple years ago, called Clever Title Pending. Because I made a bookmark on my schedule, and I wrote down Clever Title Pending. Because I'm sure I would come up with one, and I thought, well, that's pretty okay there, so we ran with it, and that's why my intro from Meredith Logren, we love you, Meredith, the
giantess, as we
the
like to call her.
giantess herself,
Yes.
She's a darling from Geek Insider. And the thing is, I still get, like 20 pages from somebody who just latched onto the show. Meredith has it on there, don't send your ideas to Brian. He's heard them all. And turns out I have more than once.
Yeah.
But I'll start listening to them when people can figure out where I took Never Mind the Furthermore. There is actually a source for that.
Huh.
Yes.
Right.
The play Oklahoma.
Oh, okay.
Right. The courtroom scene where Curly is on trial, and one guy is saying, well, furthermore, and furthermore, and furthermore, and they're trying to figure out how to deliver a plea, and finally the judge says, never mind the furthermore, the plea is self-defense. And later, the Monkees, the group The Monkees, Mickey Dolenz wrote 2 songs where that same line, never mind the furthermore, the plea is self-defense, was used. Not that I'm a Monkees fan, but it was Zilch and No Time. But anyway,
just
just a little casual knowledge that Brian has from repeated use. But no, we converted that to a from basically an annex for Nevermind the Furthermore into an interview show.
Yeah.
And we have people on of different disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, and I get a number of people that want to come on, hey, I've got this product, I want to sell it on your show. That's not what the show's about.
Right.
Yeah.
It is getting to know people and why they do what they do.
Yeah.
So like one of our earliest shows, we talked about imposter syndrome, which a number of us suffer from, and I am one of them, where it's like, why are all these people being so nice to me? Why are they praising me? All I did was write a stupid book about a cemetery sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you have to remind yourself that, well, I have done some stuff, and I have made some accomplishments, and it's not that you have to be egotistical about it. It's, yes, that's right. You know who I almost drove for?
The Rottweiler.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when one of your friends is named the Rottweiler, but no, it's like it's acknowledging that you have actually done something worthwhile. You have actually done something that other people don't exit their comfort zone to do. Like you, gentlemen, you are running a highly polished, I don't care what you say, highly polished broadcast here, very entertaining. You have an identity. And yet there are people sitting out there right now saying, I ought to do that. Oh, wait a minute. Game of Thrones is on again. Let's watch that.
Yeah.
So not that I'm picking on George R.R. Martin.
You know what? I think he can take it. Write the next book. Come on.
Yeah, because as far as levels, there's levels in every profession. He doesn't know I exist. He can name microbes. He can probably name microbes and infectious diseases more readily than my name will ever come up. So I'm good with this. I'm all right. I've resigned myself to it. Yeah. But no, we started doing the interview show, and like last night we had the writer and artist Luke Stone on.
It was a great show, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I was, I credit my guests. I really do. I see myself as more a facilitator. Mm-hmm. Because we allow our audience to also ask questions. And by the way, you had some great ones.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah.
Well, sincerely, you did. I'm not just, it's not just tit for tat here. You really did. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your support. But it is one of those things where because I know that I can ask the questions but chances are I know 3/4 of the answers.
Right.
But there are people out there that need to hear the expertise, like what, we didn't bring Luke on to promote Hybrids, the Sons of Gods, which, by the way, only has about 30 hours left in his Indiegogo campaign. I do urge you to go check it out.
Really quick, did you check to see where he's at?
Yes. When last night we went during the course of the show, from 64 to 66% of him reaching his goal. I credit the Nevermorians.
Yeah.
Because they're a great group. And then when I checked just prior to appearing here, he had shot up to 75% of his goal.
Awesome.
Yes,
That's
I'm
great.
very proud because
cool.
Luke is such a great guy. He really totally deserves it. And I've seen what he's putting in the book, and it's really an incredible project he's putting together, plus all he's doing with Terraform Comics. But the thing is, like I said, I will know most of the answers.
Yeah.
A lot of interviewers already know the answer. We're just pulling the new version out in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
But there are people who need to know, how do I run an effective Kickstarter campaign? How do I price out the levels? How do I work with other creators? How do I get my book published, et cetera, et cetera? And they're used to me saying it, but I don't want me to be the only source, because there are people who are bigger experts or have a more diverse store of knowledge than I will have. So I want people to be able to hear from other disciplines, other practitioners of different disciplines, so that they can try what they think will work for them. Because, I've given advice based on what has worked for me, and people have tried the exact same thing and said, Brian, how full of crap are you? You have blue eyes. They should be brown with all the nonsense you're filled with, because it didn't work at all for me. Yeah. So, but that's how the creative fields change so quickly. Yeah. So I want people to have different authors, and I also subscribe to the idea that if they like you, if they get to know you, they're going to check out what you do.
Yeah.
So in a way, it is a sales thing. It is a promotional tool, but it's not an infomercial. I never want it to become an infomercial. And I have people all the time that are saying, hey, Brian, I need to be on your show. I've got a Kickstarter I'm launching that very night. And I'm like, well, good luck with it. We'll mention it on the show or something. But we're not going to turn it into a commercial.
I think a really a great part of the indie creator community is it is a community. I think it's always that first, or at least it should be. I think with some people it's not, and that they're the difficult ones. But really when you understand that aspect of it, that it's a community first, and there's networking that comes along with that's a part of it, right? But if the forefront of your minds, when I go to Comic Cons, I'm not looking, what can this person do for me? I'm like, this is a new person that I get to meet, or this is a person that I love seeing every time I come to the show.
Yeah.
Like Ray.
So, Ray Kaufman. He was on the show a few episodes ago. He's a great guy, and we became friends. And now here, whenever the convention scene happens again, I hopefully you and I will be able to see each other at Imaginarium.
I would love that. I sincerely would. I have missed the shows not being on. In fact, I'm going to be at one in about 2 weeks, at the end of September, as we're recording this, and it's mostly one because I know one of the people running it, and he's a good guy, and I want to support him. But I also talked to some of my friends, and we're like, it's been too long. We've got to see each other.
Yeah.
So that's the main purpose. And if we sell a book or two, so much the better. But I agree with you completely. Love Imaginarium. Stephen and Holly and Daniel and everybody associated with the event. It's a fantastic show. So.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to any show, honestly. At this point, I'm ready to get back out there. We were supposed to be in Cincinnati Comic-Con either this weekend or next weekend, and of course it's not going to happen. I'm just sad. I miss all my people.
I can't believe that
I
was
hear you.
almost a year ago.
It was that it's
crazy.
insane. This year has gone by. It's gone by fast, and yet also it feels like it's been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or it just feels like it's never going to end.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
December
Brian,
32nd. Will you come back to me on December 32nd?
Oh,
And we'll
gosh.
see what a profit
I keep
am.
seeing that meme where it's like it goes from like 12:59 to like 12:60. You're like, what?
Exactly.
Oh man. Well, Brian, what we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up a little bit, and we'll have you back on because there's some questions that we wanted to get to that we're not going to be able to get to. We're running out of time, but I do want to bring up two last questions. The first one is, what is your biggest piece of advice? And we've kind of touched on this for up and coming indie creators.
My chief bit of advice, and it's going to sound like I'm, one of those complex sentences, but I would say don't give up. Never give up. And this may be an annex to it. Part of not giving up is continuing to learn, continuing to educate yourself, be willing to grow, keep your ears open, absorb everything, figure out what you can use. And it sounds like a lot, but the thing at the heart of it, don't give up, because there's going to be a lot of people. Like when I started my journey as a full-time professional author, I had so many people come up to me and say, Brian, you're an idiot. You can't do this. There is no way you will ever sell a book.
Yeah.
You might as well give up now, especially knowing how your mind works. And this kind of stuff that you fill it with. You are doomed. And that's when I started the hashtag Fueled by Spite.
Yeah.
Because I had a whole bunch of people that, Frank Sinatra one time was asked, what is the best revenge? And he said, living well.
Yeah.
And so, I did a book that was ebook only, but, then I released this one, Santa Stein. And like I said, this has gone on to sell not just in America and Canada. It is also sold in Great Britain and Germany and China and Japan. Wow. And it is currently being bootlegged in Russia. So I'm worthy of being stolen from.
You've made it, funny. Sir.
I'm worthy to be. I'm worthy of thievery now. But I have to tell real quick. My good friend Trevor Eric Hawkins, who did this cover. I've told this story a number of times and it's Rising Tide all the way. Where because he's an incredibly talented artist, I asked him to do my cover. And I don't even remember now what I told him I wanted, but he came up with this, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Good God. And I said, now what's the price? What's the price? What do I owe you for this? And he said, I have a degree in fine arts. For the last 20 years, I've worked in a copy shop because I can't get anyone to buy my paintings. I just haven't made the right connections, haven't, lightning strike or whatever. And my father doesn't understand. He's like, what did we pay for? Yeah. When you're working in a copy shop. He said, all I want to do is be able to take this book and put it in front of him and say, look, Dad, someone believed in my work.
Yeah.
And this guy is now, I'm not the only one that got bought up in, 6 different countries. He does. Yeah. And also he gets royalties from this.
Yeah.
He didn't ask for them, but I give him royalties. And to show you how it works, we then started talking about Volcana, my series book. And he started giving me some great ideas. And this is Trevor's cover too, by the way. And he started giving me some great ideas that actually changed the direction of what I wanted to do in a positive way. And he said, well, do I get the Santa Stein deal? I'm like, go to hell. No way. I did. I told him, no, you're not getting the Santa Stein deal. You're now co-owner of Volcana.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
that's
cool.
cool.
if I ever get a movie deal, Trevor's name's going on the marquee too.
That's
so,
cool. How very anti Bob Kane of you. Good job.
I know. Yeah, if it were Bob, if I were in that position, one, I wouldn't have told DC I wasn't a minor when I signed the contract, and two, I would have said, "Here's my buddy Bill Finger. You need to talk to him. You need to, do you know how much he's contributed? Because if nothing else, it's a little bit reflected glory. Like I tell people when we share links, promotional links on my broadcasts." Let everyone see the cool people you hang out with.
Yeah.
It's like, I know artists, I know writers, I know you guys, I know, all kinds of incredible creative people. It doesn't exactly make me look like a dolt to say I know these folks.
Right.
So,
yeah, for sure, man. Well, where can we find you, sir? You have spent quite a bit of time promoting other people, even on a podcast episode that was about you. So where can we go to find all your books and your shows and everything?
Well, like I said, unaccustomed as I am to talking about myself, you can find me and my bloated ego on Nevermind the Furthermore. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have a YouTube channel, and you can also find us on the Rising Tide page, Indie Vent, and my personal profile page. We're on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Then Tuesday night, we talk about creativity and the business behind it on Clever Title Pending. We've had some great guests, writers, artists, illustrators, broadcasters, all kinds of cool people. This coming week, we are going to be talking with Erin Casey, who has her first book came out 2 years ago, The Purple Door District, and she is also promoting a show in Iowa called Imagine Other Worlds with Authors. And there's going to be panels. It's going to be a virtual con because that's pretty much what we got for the most part.
Right.
And she said there's somebody she wants on the show, and I can refuse her nothing. And also, we are going to be having special broadcasts on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe and ring that bell so you'll be notified of the original broadcasting we're going to be doing. We're going to start a new nighttime show talking about comics. And,
yes, I hear of such things. Good.
Yes, and don't be surprised if you guys get invited to one or more of these shows. Also, my work can be found on Amazon. Look for Brian K. Morris, www.amazon.com/author/Brian K. Morris, where you can pick up groovy books like this, where you can also learn how to write comic books and get scared out of your pants, because we base this on the tales of a real-life haunted cemetery in Chicago, and also the aforementioned the original Skyman Battles the Master of Steam. If you don't like comic book characters, you'll still like this book, because who doesn't like seeing a Nazi get a boot to the snoot? And of course, my international bestseller, told with much inappropriate humor, Santa Stein, the post-holiday Prometheus. It is filled with much mirth, and of course, showing what a marketing genius I am, I released a holiday book in March. But anyway, so I'm also on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook as Brian K. Morris, because otherwise I would never remember what my logon is, and I may be creative, but I don't have a good memory. And also, we're on Instagram as BrianK.Morris. So please feel free to friend us, reach out to us, and check out the people that are my friends that share their links on my pages, because they are incredible, and I am so very proud to be their friend. You guys are fantastic. I have had a wonderful time. Sorry I have talked for so long, but
absolutely not, man. We honestly, we need to get you back on the show here very soon to talk about a few other things that we wanted to talk about. I feel like we could
next week, folks, as the star.
Dastardly Dingoes starring Brian K. Morris next week.
Exactly.
We'll just all be sitting there like,
No, you should be more like, oh dear God, what have we done? I would love to come back on. We'll set a time. I will be there. I have had a fantastic time. I love what you guys do, and I really want to see you guys get a larger audience. And when this drops, I am definitely going to share it on my YouTube page.
Awesome.
And part of my guest
Thank you, sir.
Tab. And thank you guys for having me. I have had a blast.
That's
absolutely, man. We've had a lot of. This has been a great episode. You've
Yeah.
been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Now I will say before we leave, normally, I'll say something like "See you next time, guys," and that'll be it. But you do something that has kind of become your own little thing that you close every show out with. And would you please do us the honor of doing the same thing with us?
I would be glad to. Thank you all for watching the Dastardly Dingoes show. It has been an honor to be here. Tune in next time. They are going to have another amazing guest. Did you have a good time tonight? Next week's going to be even better. I promise you that. So anyway, this is Brian K. Morris for RisingTide.pub and Rising Tide Publications telling you, stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome. Take care, everyone, and thank you for watching Dastardly Dingoes.
Yeah.
See you guys next time. And we're
Awesome.
done. Oh, that was great, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh,
that
my God, guys, thank you. That was a blast. This is the most fun I've had in ages, seriously.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, it was funny. We ended up... this episode's actually going to be one of the longer ones, which doesn't.
Well, of course, Motor Mouth is on here.
I swear, man, we could talk to you for
solid
hours.
2 hours.
Yeah, this is great, dude. So yeah, we're definitely going to have you back on soon,
I would love it.
And
I would love it.
We'll talk about some more stuff, and we'll start talking about. I really wanted to get into just the indie comic culture in general. And indie creator, indie writer culture. I think that's something that, with all of us kind of being steeped in a little bit, I'd love to dive into that more with you.
Yeah. I would love to, because I honestly think that we have a better chance as writers to break into comics via the indie scene than we do, because you look at DC and Marvel and Dark Horse, like a lot of them, they say in their legal information, we do not accept unsolicited manuscripts or ideas. Yeah. And the thing is, back in the day, I was sending out stuff to DC and Marvel regularly. I came within this close to getting published by a couple of them, but every time I got close, they fired the editor. So
yeah, and that kind of stuff. And I have a buddy of mine who he's an inker for Marvel and DC, and we were talking about just how impossible it is to get on with Image Comics anymore.
Yeah.
Especially via their website, submission page. He said they don't even really check it very much anymore because they get so many. So anymore, you just have to meet them at a show and talk at the bar, and that's really how you get in anymore. It's and that, good grief, that's difficult to do in and of itself.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, you've got so many people that you have to answer to, and especially like with Marvel and DC, where that's a great idea, Brian. Listen, let's run it through legal and promo first, and then it's totally unrecognizable. Or let's say you have a hit, and then suddenly you're operating your own little universe, and then all of a sudden, hey, we're going to have like 50 zillion events run through your pages. And by the way, here are all the characters you're going to have as guest stars. Well, read between the lines, editors. But I guess I'm too old and cranky now to put up with that. So
yeah, I'm young and cranky, so.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Well, I got a lot of practice, young man. I'm telling you, just stay true to your form there.
I really do think that indie. I know we've said it on your show before. Indie creators. I really think that's going to be the new mainstream here in the next 10 years.
I think so.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about that next time. And thank you again. Thank you again, Brian, for coming on.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. It's good again to talk to you in person rather than
absolutely.
Everything.
It's funny. I thought about that today. I was like, he's never actually seen me or heard me before. He's only ever seen words on a screen next to my crazy picture.
Well, I used to get that a lot at shows. It's like, hey, Brian, it's me. Remember me? I'm your friend on Facebook. I'm like, no, you're this little picture of ones and zeros. That's who you are.
Right, exactly.
So, I've had a blast, guys, and I may have to return the favor and have you guys on some of my shows, too.
Well, hey, that'd be great. Just let us know, man.
Promise. We'll make a date someday, okay? I promise it'll be soon.
All right. All right, Brian. Well, Jeremy, thanks for hosting, buddy.
Thank you, Jeremy.
No
Great work, man.
And we will. I will I guess we'll all see each other on Friday morning. All right,
10 a.m.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care. Have a good night.